Welcome to the 42nd installment of ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. I'm your host, Tiff Wells. With us today, former UH football running back. You see him all over on TV. He was the sports anchor for Hawaii News Now, and now he's the face of HI Now. None other than Kennedy Kainoa Carlson. Kainoa, welcome to Talk Story.
Wow, thanks for having me, guys. What, episode 42? I got the Jackie Robinson episode?
Yes, you do.
Wow, the pressure is continuing to build. But as always, man, it's good to see you, and I always appreciate the time talking story.
Of course. Thanks for joining us. Now, first off, we have to ask this because athletes we know sometimes will fib about how tall or how short they are. So we looked at the UH bio from you back in the day. It says 5'11". True or false?
5'11", true. Unfortunately, the weight, I'm probably fatter than I was originally listed. I think I was something at like 245, 5'11", 245, which by UH running back standards is very small. 5'11", really 245, that's not even that big.
Now, born and raised in Kaneohe in the 96744, to you, what does it mean being a Keikioka Aina?
Man, being a Keikioka Aina, it's such an important thing, especially being born and raised in Hawaii. Kaneohe was a unique childhood in the sense that I was connected through so many things through sports. I mean, I grew up in Kaneohe, went to church in Kaneohe, played basketball in Kaneohe, played football in Kaneohe. So really, I was a Keikioka Kaneohe too, just a child of that place that has really molded me and shaped me into what and who I am today. But being a Keikioka Aina is such a unique thing. It's a privilege, really, until you start realizing throughout your career, whether it's your personal life, your professional life, how much people love Hawaii, how much people genuinely love Hawaii. And to say that you are Keikioka Aina, you realize as you get older, man, it's such a tremendous privilege. So that's what it means to me. It means being so thankful for this life that I had and the childhood that I had.
You mentioned, or we mentioned rather, your given name, Kennedy, but everybody knows you by your TV name, which is Kainoa. Have you always gone by Kainoa?
It's actually really funny. Going back to my Kaneohe days, I grew up Kennedy all throughout my childhood until about the 8th grade. I went to Punahou in 9th grade, and that's when we were like, Punahou, let's get the local name going. Since we're going over to Punahou, and that was when I made that transition into Kainoa. But Kennedy is my given name. It's my first name, and it's actually pretty cool because all my good hometown brothers that know me from back in the day, anytime I see them or I'm walking around Windward Mall or I'm grinding lunch or I'm working, they're like, "Oh, Kennedy!" I turn and I know it's a brother I've known for a long time. I automatically know that it's someone who knows me from back in the day. But Kainoa was when I transitioned at Punahou.
Now, you mentioned both basketball and football growing up. Were those the only two sports you played, or were there others that you also grew up playing?
Basketball and football were the ones that I navigated toward mainly when I got to high school because I realized, okay, I'm actually pretty decent at these. Tried baseball, was terrible. Played soccer. Soccer was great. I actually really enjoyed soccer. But for those who remember back in those times in the 90s, soccer and football actually ran at the same time. ASO and Pop Warner were same seasons. I don't know if that's still the case now. But after a while, you had to make that decision between soccer and football. I also wrestled growing up when I was a little kid, which was good fun. I even wrestled a year at Punahou. But really, when I was a kid, I got into everything. I just knew sports was what I wanted to do. It was ingrained in me. My two older brothers, I have two older brothers and one younger sister. So growing up in our house, I mean, it was practices and games every day, every week, every weekend. This Hawaii lifestyle is always different, right? Some kids grow up surfing and diving and fishing. And as much as we wanted to do those things and transition, I mean, we were just a full sports household, man. Through and through. If it wasn't my game, it was my brother's game. If it was my brother's game, it was my sister's cheerleading practice or a cheerleading banquet. So we were always involved in sports at a young age.
You mentioned the older brothers and of course your younger sister. Now I have to ask, how competitive were those games either in the driveway or in the backyard growing up?
Oh, good times. Good times. And it's one of those things where you remember that famous line that everyone says when they're little, no blood, no foul. especially in the driveway basketball games. But yeah, I mean, being competitive at a young age, and that's what sports teaches, right? I mean, if it's not your older brother, then it's a neighborhood kid, or it's a bigger, older, stronger teammate. But that's where you learn to be competitive, and that's what I learned at a young age. And that's what the great thing is about sports, is that it's such a great measuring stick for showing you where you are and kind of where you want to go.
Now, growing up on the island, you of course went to and watched a lot of UH teams. You got to see a lot of athletes go through their time in their 4, 5, sometimes 6 years at UH. What are some of your earliest experiences, your earliest memories of going to a UH game as a fan?
Man, going to UH games. So like I said, I played Pop Warner football. And one of the cool things about Kainoa Knights program back then is we had a really strong Pop Warner program. A lot of great players came out of that area. Me and Corey Paredes actually came up at the same time. He was playing for the Punahou Broncos at the time. Needless to say, that guy was a monster. But a lot of these guys that came out from the windward side, we grew up. But it was cool because in those Pop Warner days, when you got to the tournament at the end of the season, they had it at Cook Field. So the cool thing was you got to, even as a young kid, go to Cook Field, and you got to see the players practice, and guys like Lance Samuseva. And then it was cool because they would take you the day before to show you where you were going to play, but they brought all the Pop Warner kids out there to watch the UH football practices. And that's some of my earliest memories of watching UH. I have great memories at Aloha Stadium and going to the games, but just going to the practices at Cook Field and seeing the size of these guys, like I said, the Lance Samusevas and the Vince Manuwais, and to go and look back at the size of these guys, and still at its root level, right? UH is a program, especially the football program, that's so embedded in the community. And at the end, they always took time to come to us, to sign our autographs, to take our pictures. So those are always kind of great experiences. Even at a young age, I still remember.
Now, out of Punahou, you chose to go away for school for the first couple of years. You went to Pacific Lutheran. When you were looking at going away for college, what do you remember most? Was it like a recruiting process? What do you remember most about choosing to go away to PLU?
Yeah, so actually Pacific Lutheran University is a school that's known for their education program. And coming out of Punahou School, I had a decent high school career, in the sense that I was honorable mention at the running back position for the last 3 years I was there, my sophomore, junior, and senior year. Of course, I was playing running back at the same time. Kealoha Polaris was playing running back at Damien. Easy decision in terms of, geez, the running back, who should we? I mean, Kealoha was insane in high school and insane at UH. But that was my time. So I was playing running back then, came out PLU 2007, was thinking about studying education, thought, okay, I'd love to be a teacher, thought about going that route. And PLU still offered that ability to get on the football field. I still love playing football at that time. So I had that opportunity. And this is the unique thing, is that I went away to PLU, had a decent year there, was kind of in the rotation, even just as a freshman at a smaller Division III school. It was good fun competition-wise because they play in that Pacific Northwest region. So you've got schools like Willamette and Whitworth and Linfield. And at those times, kind of in those earlier 2000s, 04, I mean, Linfield was a national contender for Division III. Linfield was a legit program. And anyone knows playing football, basketball, whatever have you, at the Div 3, the Div 2, the Div 1 level, being a national contender is a big deal. It's a big deal. And Linfield had a bunch of local boys. So I thought PLU would be fun. It'd be a conference. It's close to home, Tacoma, Washington. I'm 5 hours from my family. But of course, I went there in the 07 and 08 season. And it was interesting because when I came out of high school, I was talking to Ron Lee at the time, and he was like, you could come and walk on. One of these invited walk-on deals, you could come and kind of get the lay of the land and see what you think. Then the Div 3 thing seemed like, okay, it'd be an opportunity to go away. I obviously opted to go to PLU. They had the Sugar Bowl year that same year. So I'm over there watching, the late and the great Colt Brennan do his thing, Devon, and I'm watching it and I'm blown away at what I'm watching. So that was the Sugar Bowl season. And after that year, it was a decision like, man, I want to come home. I want to be a part of this ruckus that's going on at Aloha Stadium. So played a season at PLU and then came home. right after that.
Now that 2007 season, we're not talking about the Sugar Bowl year. We're talking about your PLU season. I don't know if you know this. Looking at some of the stats, 12 carries, 44 yards. There was a touchdown. What can you tell us about that touchdown?
Oh man, I was hyped up. It was my first. To be honest, it was cool. It was my second carry of my entire college career. We were playing against California Lutheran. We're at about the 14, 15-yard line. It was a 0-5 Indy call. Evens were to the right, odd numbers were to the left. 0-5, so I went up left. It was off tackle to the left, and I was able to score. But that was a great memory because my family at the time, obviously this is before the day and age of social media, right? There wasn't any kind of streaming going on. So they're doing it old school style. They're listening on the radio. But so that was a cool moment, scoring a touchdown for Pacific Lutheran. And I have great memories, and I still keep in contact with a lot of the guys from that year.
Now, when you did come back and you did walk on to UH, who were some of the players? Now, granted, you had a lot of former Punahou teammates on this UH roster, but who were some of the guys that really helped to welcome you in as you made that transfer process from PLU to UH?
Oh man, I'll never forget. Obviously coming in as a running back. So I came back and then I had to redshirt a season. So Coach McMacken was transitioning into that role of being the head. But I mean, we had such an awesome core at the time that I was there for running backs. It was Inoke Funaki, local legend. I mean, I'm a Hawaii boy. I know all about Inoke Funaki. He was really cool, kind of welcomed me in. Braston Satele was another kind of leader of that team. Rocky Savainaya was there. And Blaze Soares, who was a Kaneohe Castle kid, I had known him growing up. He was super cool too. But of course, the year that I walked on with Bryant Moniz. So me and him came in together. And then the year that I came in was the same year Alex Green came in. And that's when I remember being in the weight room and tossing around weight with Alex Green and being like, okay, this is kind of the level I was operating on. This guy is operating on a whole nother level. I mean, I just knew looking at Alex Green, like this guy is going to go to the NFL. He came in, it was Alex Green, Chizzy Demude. It was a great core of a great mix of kind of mainland guys who'd come in, and then your local boys. Like I said, we had Inoke Funaki. And in that running back core was Jason Rego, who his senior season, he was the Hawaii State Offensive Player of the Year. That was the year Kamehameha won the state title. So, I mean, we had a great backfield, and it was good fun. It was a good time.
Last one here before we go to our break, Kainoa. Now, we know that recently it's come out that Aloha Stadium, it's been condemned. It's going to turn into this new district that may take upwards of 3 years, possibly more. But for you, having played there in high school, in college, you've been there as a media member, both with Hawaii News Now and covering various all-star games in collegiate football. What may be your biggest takeaway in going to a game at Aloha Stadium?
I think for me, especially coming from the windward side all the time, was just that feeling of pulling up to Aloha Stadium. As a player and as a coach, it's a different experience, right? You're coming in on the buses and you have the escort in, but I'll talk mainly as a fan experience because at some point or another, right, we're all fans when you go to Aloha Stadium. But the big takeaway is just that the nostalgia that stadium has on anyone who's ever stepped foot in it. And I'm glad you brought that up because I covered the Dallas Cowboys and LA Rams game. This was back in 2019. And you're talking about Aloha Stadium. And when we talked to Jason Garrett right after the game, Dallas head coach at the time, he said, man, I told our players, do you even know what you're stepping into to play a preseason game here at Aloha Stadium? The greatest football players of all time have played at Aloha Stadium, along with the many, many other events and the concerts and of course, everything that entails. But to see these NFL coaches and then even Coach McVay come in and say, I mean, this was a no-brainer for us as NFL teams to get out here and showcase our players in really, a stadium that's regarded that way at the most elite levels of football, just speaks volume to what Aloha Stadium means to local people here like us who've got to see it and touch it and feel it and the way it's regarded nationally.
Kainoa, we do need to take a break right here, so stay right there. Along with former running back from UH football, Kainoa Carlson, I'm Tiff Wells. You're listening to ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. Welcome back to ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. I'm your host, Tiff Wells. We're here with former running back from UH football, now the host of HI Now Kainoa Carlson. Now, if this was around when you were playing football in college, and we're talking about the NIL or the name, image, and likeness, what might be some of the local companies possibly that you would have tried to maybe work out some, side deals while you were being a student at UH?
Well, again, getting back to the weight, I was a heftier player, so I gotta hit up all the plate lunch places, right? I mean, I'm looking at any place that serves 2 scoops rice and mac salad. I gotta get in there. I gotta figure out a way to facilitate that in that way, because at the same time, the way that these athletes are able to showcase whatever it is that they're going to be, the businesses and the different community partners that they're thinking of partnering with, it's a good opportunity as well for these businesses to be showcased kind of in that way. So I mean, I would encourage, right, if you're kind of like a bigger brada, you're maybe looking at some of these kind of, maybe it's bigger local apparel companies that kind of size up for different sizes, or you're looking at if you love eating sandwiches, you're looking at, I would say you got to look at things that you enjoy. What are you going to enjoy, and things that you like doing, things you like eating, things you like doing when you're not playing sports. That's going to make for a better partnership. That's what I would say. But if it were me, I'm hitting up all the plate lunch places. Automatic.
Now, you had mentioned you were going to school for education, and we know obviously now you're working in TV. You told me this story, and I always found it fascinating about how you got into the TV industry with he's now the mayor of Honolulu with Rick Blangiardi, but he was the main guy at Hawaii News Now. Take us through that conversation and what led you to going and becoming a worker over at Hawaii News Now.
Yeah, I mean, I had a really unconventional story. Even I started out thinking of majoring in education, and then transitioning back to the University of Hawaii, realizing that a degree in sociology was also a possibility. I kind of followed that route. But for me personally, I knew kind of 2 things toward the end of my athletic career, if you will. And I know that's a hard thing, because a lot of times the timing in which you figure out what it is that you want to do varies from person to person. But for me, I knew 2 things. Sports had always been an integral part of my life. If I wasn't playing it, I was talking about it. If I wasn't talking about it, I was around it. I was watching it. So I knew that whatever I did, my next phase, my next chapter, and whatever it is that I was going to do once I graduated from UH, I knew I wanted it to involve sports. And I had always been fascinated by production. Production was always something that I thought was cool. Even playing in high school, watching sports reporters come to the games and shoot, and kind of how that all works. And even at Punahou, Punavision was kind of their degree of production that they would. So that was always fascinating to me. Like, wow, what a great gig that is, to go and watch sports and be a part of it, kind of in that way. So anyways, long story short, graduated from the University of Hawaii, started looking for jobs, realized at 21 years old, I didn't have any experience. I didn't intern anywhere in college. This was something that I was still trying to pursue at its most elementary level. So my original opportunity at Hawaii News Now actually came on Craigslist, believe it or not. It was on Craigslist. I was looking for jobs. Production, search, and kind of was navigating that whole process, and a sales job was available at Hawaii News Now. So I thought, okay, maybe this might be kind of a way to get my foot in the door. Went to the sales meeting, met the sales lady. She was fantastic. About 45 minutes later, we're chatting. She goes, I got to tell you something. I said, sure. She goes, Kainoa, I got to tell you, I've enjoyed talking to you. This has been a fun conversation. You're not going to get the job. You have like no credentials for the job that you're applying for. This is sales at a news station. So what is it that you want to do? And so I thought, oh my gosh, okay, well, thanks for the time. I appreciate the time. And I was like, I've always wanted to be in production. I think I want to pursue this goal of being a sports reporter. I'm not sure how I'm going to get there, but I really, really know that that's something that I want to do. That's my goal. That's what I'm going for. And I knew myself even in that moment, and I didn't say this out loud, but even if I didn't get the opportunity, I was going to go out the door and look for another one, because that's all you can do. That's all you can do. Luckily, she said, "Oh my gosh, okay, if that's what you want to do, then there's someone I need to introduce you to, and it's Rick Blanchard." So automatically, after 45 minutes, I come in not having a chance at all to, okay, I'm going to go sit with the guy who makes, essentially all the decisions at Hawaii News Now. It happened really quickly. So she takes me in there. I sit with Rick, and the conversation was basically, "Hey, I'm looking at your resume." He says, "I see things like busboy, and I see things like host." And he was kind of looking at the different odd jobs that I had done throughout my career. But he looked at me and he said, "You know what I see though when I look at these odd jobs?" I said, "No." He said, "I see a kid who's paid his dues to be sitting here today." I thought, wow. And he said, "A kid in your position, he needs an opportunity. And today I'm going to give you that chance." And that was in 2013. And it's been quite a ride these last 8 years, but it's crazy how it happened.
It really has. Now, someone who was very integral in terms of Hawaii football broadcast, but also just in terms of being in the television media out here, and he worked at a competing station. Of course, we're talking about the late, great Robert Kikala. For both of you guys being local boys, born and raised, what kind of message or what kind of feeling did he invoke working at a competing station, welcoming you in to your TV career? And do you have maybe a story about Robert?
Yeah, Robert, first of all, at its most fundamental level, being a local boy like me, who has just talked for the last 20 minutes about the impact sports has had on my life, it'd be impossible for him not to have an impact, because he was someone that I grew up watching, someone that, I grew up idolizing in a lot of ways because of who he was and what he was able to accomplish. And then on top of kind of what he was able to do. And the coolest part for me was that, and Tiff, I don't know if you can speak to this too, but you know how this industry at times at its fundamental level, it's a competitive industry to get into. It's hard to get in, and a lot of times people aren't so willing in that way to help people, depending on the situation and the circumstances and all these different things. But oftentimes, and not just this industry, but many industries, it's hard to find that mentor, that person who will help you kind of reach their hand down and pull you up. Obviously, I didn't have the opportunity to work directly with him, but he was somebody that was always willing to share the knowledge. And I can't point to one story in particular, but he was just someone that was always willing. If you had a question, he would answer it. What do you think about this? Oh, okay. I think about this. And then he would comment too, like, "Hey, I saw what you did the other night." And then maybe a nod, and you're like, "Okay, wow, that's a pretty big deal." Okay. So it was, but he was such an instrumental part of me going after this and being able to navigate it this way, because I had a living example of, what this career could turn into. Guys like Robert, and then watching Rob DeMello, who just continues to do it and continues to do it at an insanely high level. It shows us, especially the local boys here who want to do this, what's possible and how it can happen.
Now, from 2018 to 2020, you were the sports anchor at Hawaii News Now, and of course, 2020 was something vastly different than what we've seen in quite some time. But it also led to a new venture for you with Hawaii News Now, moving from sports to HI Now. Did you ever foresee going away from working in sports, and how has that transition been for you? Some 13, 14 months since you made that move from sports to HI Now.
Yeah, the transition has been incredible. And it's something that if you asked me 2 years ago, I never would have thought. In 2018, becoming the sports anchor, such an incredible opportunity, especially those 2 years. I feel so spoiled. You think about it. Tua's at Bama. Tua is the biggest star in college athletics at the time. College football, yeah, but maybe even the entire, college world. You had the UH men's volleyball, who was completely obliterating everybody. We had Carissa Moore, John. These guys were qualifying for the Olympics, so it was an incredible time. On top of UH football, I mean, Cole McDonald guys and what they were able to do that season and getting to the Mountain West Conference title, it was, man, it was incredible. But it was following that season in 2020, kind of when the world changed, sports and the dynamic changed as well. So it started off slow. The transition really went from, okay, sports is a different landscape right now. How about news? Started doing a little bit of news stories and kind of transitioning in that way slowly first before the High Now opportunity came. And the High Now has been kind of a blessing in disguise in that kind of a way, because transitioning over, it really kind of allowed me the chance. And I thought, what an unreal opportunity. High Now has allowed me to talk about local business and local things here in Hawaii, where to go, what to do, what to eat. And you think about the pandemic, with so many things being closed, these businesses kind of needed that opportunity, that voice now more than ever. So for me personally, to transition into High Now, to be a part of that opportunity to showcase business, to showcase Hawaii, and to do it in that way was something that was truly incredible. It was a gift, and it's a privilege totally to be able to tell these businesses stories. It's been incredible. But I never would have thought. If COVID hadn't happened, I don't know.
To showcase Hawaii, like you're saying with High Now, how impactful is it for you when you do a story about, say, the Merry Monarch, something you've watched growing up, or like any sort of keiki hula competition, or even like a pop-up makeke to help support those local businesses? How impactful is it for you to tell these local stories?
I always say this all the time. What I'm doing now, I couldn't imagine me doing it any other place in the world. Like being a Hawaii boy, being born and raised here, understanding the culture, how much it means to local people, and really the impact that we in this platform have to really help local people, especially when they need it, help local business. I mean, it's tremendous. It's I don't ever take it for granted. That's for sure. The opportunity that I have and the position that I'm in to go and just showcase all of this awesome stuff that Hawaii people are doing. It's mind blowing, from the food to the chefs to the clothing designers to the people working in so many different industries. For me personally, that's been the biggest eye opener. It's just seeing the amount of talent that people here in Hawaii have, from the artists to, again, the cooks, to everything that people are doing, and to be able to showcase it really to the world with the pop-up makeke has been a tremendous honor, and it's been great.
It doesn't happen very often when you get to work with other anchors from competing stations, whether it's KHON or KITV, but for you getting the chance to work with the very awesome and very great Paula Akana for a Merry Monarch type story, or just, other ventures within Merry Monarch. What is it like to work with her?
Oh my gosh, Paula Akana. Oh, first of all, they're like, pop up makeke. I'm like, okay, where and when? I gotta check. They're like, Paula Akana. I'm like, sign me up. Sign me up right now. I'll clear this. Paula Akana is just incredible. She's just as classy and knowledgeable the way she comes across on screen as she is in person. She's so genuine. And again, another person who really, kind of takes the time to really mentor in that way. And so getting the chance to work alongside her, hosting the pop-up makeke with her, she is so knowledgeable about so much Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian values. And even for someone like me growing up, she used to do the Hawaiian word of the day. It was, I'm not gonna lie, I had to keep the fanboy to a minimum. I kept looking over like, oh, that's Paula Akana right there. Okay, keep it together. That's Paula Akana right there. Keep it together.
You've been all over the island, been all over the state doing various stories for High Now, and it very rarely seems you have a day off. And we also know there's a recent addition to your family. So I'm assuming that when you do have a day off, you're a family guy. What do you like to do on your day off?
Oh man, what do I like to do on my day off? My day off consists of a lot of Netflix and a lot of Hulu and a lot of HBO Max. Speaking of, I just tuned into the Space Jam: The New Legacy with LeBron. But yeah, I had a new addition to my family earlier this year. I had my son, my very first son. His name's Kalai. I had him on March 28th of 2021 earlier this year. And so along with the craziness of work and everything like that, that's all I do. I go home and I'm in full daddy mode. And I'm kind of in the 100 Days of Darkness right now because he doesn't sleep a lot. He's about 4 months old, but he's been life-changing. He's been life-changing.
Couple more here for you, Kainoa. Your former high school football coach, Kaliane, recently retired only to take a position as the head football coach over at McKinley less than a month after retiring from Punahou. When I say the name Kaliane, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Legacy. The Ane name, as many of us in Hawaii know, goes back, to the early days, his brother Neil, and then of course his father with Charlie and Charles Ane. And Ane is a name that it's a legacy name. It's a name that's been around for such a long time. And to see that transition out of McKinley, that program will benefit tremendously.
Last one for you here, Kainoa. Now, we talked about Aloha Stadium, that it's been condemned, that they're going to build a new district, but it also means that there is a new opportunity on campus. Of course, the retrofitting of Clarence T.C. Ching, the athletic complex, slated to open up this coming September, few home football games. To you, what does it mean to have an on-campus football stadium?
I think it's a tremendous opportunity for the students. The students are going to benefit tremendously from it because now it's an on-campus stadium just will bring everybody out. We saw the renderings and it'll be something different. I also think too, the timing of it is good in the sense that we're kind of all navigating this new norm. It's new for everybody. Athletics is new. The way college athletics is being run is new. Players being able to benefit from the likeness is new. Our coach is still somewhat new. So to have the venue, the timing of it is advantageous in that sense that the students will have a completely different experience, and I'm sure the team will too. But we've seen it, and we've talked previously about kind of how fun that atmosphere can be. We've seen it on spring days. We've with some food trucks out there and getting the people moving around. It'll be a different football experience, but it's one I'm looking forward to. I can't wait to watch live football again. I miss it.
Well, I know if there are food trucks involved, I'm sure there will be a certain show on a few certain stations that will be present to take advantage of it. Kainoa, as always, pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure chatting with you, my man. Thanks.
For Kainoa, as well as the rest of us here at ESPN Honolulu, I'm Tiff Wells saying thank you so much for joining us here on the Jackie Robinson edition, 42nd edition of ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. Until next time, wear that mask, stay safe, and be socially distant.